Hello, 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 Love Wrestling community, and welcome to another special edition of a Love Wrestling Reacts War Report live for NXT on Tuesday night, May 18th. As you can see, I am joined by two of my friends. I will start with Mr. Parrish on the bottom of me. How are you tonight, my friend? What do you think in general of the show this evening?
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I loved the tag title, or not tag title, but the number one contender tag match. I thought that was excellent. I do think Tommaso Ciampa needs to learn how to do an ankle lock, but other than that, fantastic match.
All right, and let's slide over to my Joe friend, the mighty one. What did you think of the show tonight, and how are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing, man. I guess I'm your other Joe to your Joe. Or
I don't know. How that would work. We're just the two Joes, the double Joe attack, whatever we want to call us.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as Parrish on this. Definitely some good stuff. I have a few critiques as per usual, but we will get to all that. But overall, a very solid show.
Yes, and there's Parrish getting his proverbial shot of his championship. There it is. I mean, if I had it too, I'd do the same thing, so I can't blame you. But what do we say we dive into this show tonight? I thought overall, like you guys, I thought it was a pretty good show. Some good wrestling action, kept some storylines going, introduced a few other newer ones. So let's dive into it. They open up, obviously, with the video promoting the evening. Run-of-the-mill stuff. I did like the graphic they had where it looked like a comic book cover of Bronson Reed and Gargano, and then it even had the little thing about the Zoe Stark, Tony Storm match in the corner. It looked like an old school comic that you would see in the comic book stores, when you would go to them when you were an adult, when you were younger, all stuff like that. Yeah. But we do open up with Tony Storm going one-on-one with Zoe Stark. I thought this was a good match. I'm actually going to go through my notes because what I wrote at the beginning, my first note is, I know Zoe will win, which I'm more than fine with. It's just sad it's at Tony's expense because I think she should be a bigger deal. And then as the match went on, obviously I was shut up rather quickly as Tony Storm ended up pulling out the victory in this match, which I was happy with because to me, Tony Storm is still a big deal. Even though she hasn't been portrayed that way on NXT television in a while, to me, she's still a big name. She's still a big deal. So I was happy to see her get the victory. I will start with you, Joe. What were your impressions and what stuck out to you in this opening bout?
A good solid matchup. I don't get to watch a ton of NXT, so I'm coming into this, not fully on board with what's going on with all these characters. I'm a little confused over to who is the good guy and the bad guy in this match. Are they both heels? Or are they both? I'm a little lost. I enjoyed the match, but the psychology kind of missed the mark with me, so to speak. Yeah.
At least in storyline, Tony Storm has been. I almost said Tony Stark for crying out loud. Tony Storm has been the heel in the story. But yeah, I can see where you would, the way the match was paced and the way that it went, I could see how that happened, like how you would think that if you hadn't been watching the last, month or so. Parrish, what were your thoughts on this opening match between Stark and Storm?
Well, I'm just like Joe, but in the sense of I haven't seen a lot of Tony Stark or. That's her name, right, Joe?
Yeah. They should form a tag team. Maybe if they became a tag team, they could call him Tony Stark.
No, but I'm not really a big I don't know much about Stark. I am a big fan of Tony Storm, so I was happy to see Tony Storm get the win here. I think a win does more for Tony Storm than it does for Stark. But I also don't think this is the last time these two are going to actually have a match. I didn't think this necessarily ended it, and we actually might see another match down the road, and I'd be okay with that because I'm a big fan of having a feud that's not for the title, and it only helps with the depth of that division. So plus I think just introducing more Stark is good. I do think they might have to look at putting Tony Storm back as a babyface, though. I just don't think she's doing it as a heel.
Yeah. Like I said, I was very happy to see her get the victory here because I want her to get wins on television. And It was good. She hit the Storm Zero, and Stark kicked out, and
that was a little odd to me.
Yeah,
it was so like she was like literally like a corpse, and then right at the 3, it's like she got hit by like it's like somebody like put like jumper cables on her, like she like it just,
she just popped out of magic. Yeah,
a little odd. It's maybe she's gone to the Shawn Michaels school of kicking out.
Yeah, so and nobody's really kicked out of that move a ton before, so like that's usually when Storm hits that, it's usually go home time, so she kicks out and Storm is shocked, but then Storm, they didn't even name it. She whipped out this new finish that was crazy looking, like she would like flipped her around, but then corkscrewed her body into like a DDT. It was
that's a heel.
I watched a replay on Twitter like 4 or 5 times, just like what did she do there? And yeah, it was a very cool looking move. Obviously, setting up. I'm assuming that's her new finish going forward. But yeah, I thought that was really innovative. I'd never seen a move like that before. I thought that was a very cool, different looking move.
I think I may have seen like maybe Hiromu over in New Japan do something crazy like that, because that'd be right up his alley. Or maybe when Ibushi and Naito have been trying to kill each other, one of them might have done that to the other guy. But it's a very aggressive, very very intense finishing move.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And we are joined in the chat by our friend Spenny and the Jets. He says, "Hi, friends." And he says, "That finish was mind-blowing." It sure was. Definitely was. And then we see as Storm is celebrating in the ring, the lights go out and we hear the music, and we get Frankie Monet at the top of the stage with the spotlight big and bright on her. And they continue to promote that next week. It's her debut match, but what are they calling it? I think they're just calling it
the in-ring debut.
The in-ring debut, but like her premiere, I think they're like she's a movie star type. Like her premiere is next week. So obviously something to look forward to on what should be a very big episode of NXT next week. So that ended that first segment. We then see Legado del Fantasma in the back, and they're getting interviewed, and they're saying that, they're the number 1 contenders, or they have a title match with MSK, and where is it? They've been waiting for it. They don't know what's taking so long, and they are interrupted by Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher, who also say that MSK hasn't beaten them either. And then they start to talk a little crap to each other, which sets up a tag match later, which you guys talked about at the beginning of the show, which we will get into. So that was that. And then we see my man, Cameron Grimes, arriving to the arena. He throws his keys at Jake Atlas, and he says, "Hey, park my car up front, kid." And Jake Atlas says, "Oh, I'm sorry, that spot was already taken by Ted DiBiase," which obviously infuriates Cameron Grimes as they continue to do that. Again, a couple small little segments, but especially the Cameron Grimes one. He, to me, has been the most entertaining person on NXT for a little bit now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Question for you guys. And I may be in the minority of this, but I'm curious. For myself, I've been absolutely loving, including Ted DiBiase, and this I think it's genius. It works great with the Grimes. For somebody like me who's been watching wrestling for a long time, it's been fantastic. For somebody who's maybe brand new to the product, or is a bit of a casual fan, I wonder how they're kind of doing with this. Like they're seeing Ted DiBiase and going, maybe, who is this dude?
Yeah.
Who is this dude, right? I think that it may still work, but I think maybe a lot of newer fans are maybe kind of, scratching their head going, maybe I don't know who this guy is. So I think it's something that hopefully they delve a little bit more into it, so that the newer audience can kind of get on board. They will obviously get on the same board as like us, because we've had through our entire pro wrestling watching careers. But for a bit of a newer fan, they might not be. It might not hit the mark with them as much as it does with us. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
Well, what they could do, I don't know if the new fans are aware, but they're watching the show on Peacock. Or if they're in Canada, the WWE Network is still around. You could go there and check out who Ted DiBiase is and see all about him.
And and we'll get into it in a little bit at the beginning of the match that Grimes has. But they did do that vignette showing some of the classic. Obviously, it was in good nature. They were showing him getting beat up the whole time, and while Grimes was making fun of him, but they did show some of the classic footage from DiBiase. So if you are a casual fan who might not know, at least then you'd be like, oh, so he's an older wrestler of some, you know what I mean? Like,
you got to provide with them with the context.
Exactly.
So get it right. It's like, hey, this guy, I've had great matches with Jake the Snake Roberts and all this kind of stuff, stuff with Virgil and the $1 Million Champion. You got to provide a little of backstory to initiate the newcomers.
Yes. And we like to say,
while at the same time, not alienating us in the process, which can be tricky.
I think that's why, when they tell people to go to the WWE Network and to check out all this stuff, they should just have that being said in the promo, where if that you have Ted DiBiase kind of in there, and people are like, oh, I might not know who this guy is. One guy's like, you could have that other performer and be like, I've seen you on the WWE Network, and I know that you've done this, you've done that. But you don't belong here anymore.
The WWE Network.
I don't know why I talk like that. I just know that he's doing that
network, brother. Man,
is that even a good accent or impression?
I don't know. When I hear that accent coming towards me, I run the other way. But we want to say hello to our
so
buddy
does
Ed.
Ed, apparently.
We want to say hello to our buddy Ed. He says, wish I could stay, gentlemen, but I haven't watched NXT yet. Going to start now. Have a great stream. Thank you for stopping by, Ed. You're one of our most loyal fans and subscribers, and we love you here. But before he did leave, he did say, I agree with Joe, a younger fan who I talked to on Twitter doesn't get any enjoyment out of Grimes and Ted segments at all. So, Joe, you do seem to have a point there, and I think it is a valid one for sure. When was the last time DiBiase? He's been on the screen now for a month or so, but the last time he was regularly on WWE television was when? Yeah, 20 years ago. It was a long time ago.
My Joe's hip with the kids, man. I get them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things though, too, does this is WWE a victim of how they say go back and watch certain segments? Because they always go to guys like what The Rock did, what Austin did, or the pop culture type acts, but they don't always go to the Ted DiBiase's, those middle acts that were actually really good and really enjoyable. So is that kind of on WWE for needing to be a little bit more versatile and put more variety out of who they're going back and using as an example of these platforms to go watch?
I think that's a good point. And obviously, Spenny in the Jets comment here, he says, could this be a way to get DiBiase Jr. back for a match? I don't think so.
Ted hates the business. He absolutely despises wrestling. You will not see him, at the very least, back with the WWE. He hates wrestling with a passion now. You're not going to get him anywhere near a wrestling ring.
All right. And there you go. And that sounds like someone that sounds confident, what you. Yeah. So I will trust your judgment there. I haven't read any interviews or listened to any with Junior. But he hasn't been around for a long time. And I would agree with Joe that I don't think we should be probably expecting him back anytime soon or ever.
It would be cool, but it's wishful thinking, unfortunately.
Yeah. Then we got the first of a few segments with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell having a spa day together, celebrating their tag team championship victory. And they got the
you have Frankie crash that party. I think I think that would make sense. I think it would fit with the character.
Yeah, that would have been would have been a really good idea. So they got the face masks on. They're getting temple massages and stuff like that. And they're talking about their victory. And Indy is saying, and you were right about Dexter Lumis. He was a loser. And he always followed me and all that. And then all of a sudden you peer up. And Dexter Lumis is the guy that's giving Indy Hartwell the head massage or whatever.
Perfect.
It's perfect. Creepy, but perfect. And just, and you can tell. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. And they're calling him a loser repeatedly, and you can tell he just stops and he puts his head down and he looks sad and he just walks off. And that's it. And it was one of those things where, as creepy as it was, you felt bad. You kind of felt bad. He gained your sympathy in this moment. You were like, what the hell? You were like, I feel bad for the guy now, even though he's a major creep when it comes to, I don't know. But
That was
again, quick, funny. What were your guys' opinion of this segment here?
That was a well-written, well-produced segment.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
It worked on, and the comedy was spot on. Like, and the comedic timing, and just the way that when the camera pans up to him being there, well done, guys. Well done.
Oh yeah.
I still don't understand how TNA missed the boat on Dexter Lumis. Like, he has so much potential in the entertainment aspect that I just don't understand how they didn't capitalize with the Samuel Shaw character, because I enjoyed it there, but I'm like, it's just not reaching a peak yet. And I think Dexter Lumis it's such a niche in NXT, to the point where I'm like, you know what? This act would have been fantastic back with the old Wyatt family as well. And it would have gelled so well. And imagine him with like the Luke Harpers and the Rowans back in the day. Like, how much fun that would have been to watch. But like, this was priceless.
Yeah.
DiBiase Jr., pun intended, by the way. But hey, I love the DiBiases. I can't steer
me too.
away from there. But I mean, like, these are the segments of why you actually enjoy the entertainment aspect in wrestling. It's not the over-the-top kind of like dick jokes that, you know, you still kind of see on wrestling.
Man. You can't go wrong with a good dick.
No, you couldn't, but now you can't, because somebody's going to get triggered. Somebody's going to be like, oh, I don't agree with that. So, like, we got to stay away. Now we have to have zombies until somebody dead comes back and says, I'm offended. So
those damn zombies tore the Mrs. ACL guy. Come on. I thought he was dead. Apparently they just ate his knee. So, I mean, that's all. You know what would
have been funny? And then this is going really off base. I would have loved if one of those zombies was Angry Miz Girl, by the way.
Yeah, that would have been fun. That would have been fun.
And then he could have just had like Living Dead Girl play in the background. But that's besides the point.
But you really hit something there, Parrish, with these companies missing the boat with Samuel Shaw or now Dexter Lumis. Like recently on Turnbuckle Rewind, we did Cody and Nick from All In. Oh, yeah. And when you see, I believe it was Aldous when he came out. And he had a bit of an entourage with him. I'm like,
oh yeah, he was on there.
Wait a second. I'm like,
yeah,
Dexter Lumis, that Samuel Shaw? I was like, holy, like I had like that, like my head was exploded. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, and like another guy, and I think we're going to be going there soon, was that DJ Z, who's now Joaquin Wild. I don't want to take the segue away, but it just seems like WWE, even if it's like the Raw SmackDown, but the NXT and the way they kind of package someone, Cameron Grimes, another perfect example, the old Trevor Lee, they just know how to make the most of these guys and put them in a way for them to succeed. And it's really refreshing because it's almost taking these guys and be like, okay, we know they're good wrestlers, but they need to be good entertainers as well. And the NXT right now is that perfect mesh of the two.
Yep.
And it's just really, really fun to watch.
Yeah. We have Spencer saying, I was at a barbecue with DJ Z outside of All In after Flip Gordon's party. That's awesome. I was at All In as well. That was a hell of a time. That was a hell of a weekend and a hell of a time. We then next see the Prime Target promoting the NXT Championship match, which will be next week. On NXT with Finn Balor and Karrion Kross 2. This stuff right here is where WWE is literally at their best. They make video packages and these type of promotions, vignettes like this they've always been top of the top when it comes to this type of stuff. And I thought the use of Jimmy Smith, the use of Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman especially mentioning that people on SmackDown, including Roman Reigns, are paying attention to this match just makes the match feel a little bigger, which I thought was a nice touch. I'm forgetting somebody else. There was the third guy that they talked to as well. Pat McAfee as well, who obviously has a history in NXT, but he's on SmackDown now too. Like they made, and it's a big match. It's for the NXT title, right? Like it's a huge, huge match, but they continue with these prime targets or vignettes, whatever they do to make it feel as big as it can. I love this. I thought the aspect of them watching the match and talking about the first match separately was different and excellent. I'll start with you, Parrish. What'd you think of this prime target here with Kross and Balor?
Well, I'm happy you're starting with me because I wanted to make a good point. What I love about the WWE right now is that they understand how to use their platforms to help better other platforms. Like I said, like Raw and SmackDown, they're using, and yeah, you can use these talents as like they're in the upper leagues or whatever as it is, even though it doesn't feel like there's an upper leagues, but like when you're on Fox TV, it's a different story than USA or wherever we watch it on Canada, which is everything's the same anyway. But you do have a big time feel with a Roman Reigns or with a Drew McIntyre, aka Big D, fantastic nickname. But the Randy Ortons. So when you see these guys shout out at the NXT, it makes whatever they're doing in NXT that much more special. And then when you see that from a perspective aspect from a fan and you're seeing this and maybe you just watch NXT and you obviously know who these guys are, it validates you of why you're watching NXT. So I really like that. WWE does no wrong with video packages. They've been the best in pro wrestling on video packages ever since they decided to care about video packages. They've had no competition. They've won all the time. But this is how you advertise your next week's show. This is how you get people to tune in. AEW needs to up their game on the storytelling of video packages because that is how a video package is supposed to be.
Yep. We do have our friend Bando hopping in here, and he says McAfee is the GOAT, to which Wrestling Pluggings agrees and says, yep. And Spencer says, if WWE just made vignettes and trailers, they'd still be billionaires. Joe, what were your opinions on the prime target between Cross and Balor that they showed us tonight?
Just to kind of reiterate what you guys have been talking about, I mean, WWE, they've been the best at those video packages and vignettes for years. Others have imitated but have never duplicated, or they come close sometimes. But yeah, a great job setting it up. And Bando had mentioning Pat McAfee. One thing you have to keep in mind with him, too, and the reason why I'd actually like to see him more in an in-ring kind of capacity, or at least closer to it, is, I mean, dude actually went and actually got legitimately trained with Rip Rogers. And Rip is a guy that is not going to like F around with you. Like, he's going to teach you like the ins and the outs and the right way to kind of do business. And you can tell it's rubbed off on him. So I like what I see, and I want to see more of it.
Yeah, it's nice to see the passion come out, and that's what I think. And the fans understand bullshit and passion. So when they see the passion, they tend to go towards. And I say this directly as a comparison between Pat McAfee and Ed Advert as prime examples. Not saying Ed Advert is bullshit necessarily, but they know he is not as passionate about wrestling as Pat McAfee is. And Pat McAfee shows it not only with the training that he did for this match against Adam Cole and War Games, which were fantastic performances, but he puts in the work at commentary, and that shows as well.
Hey, he's gotten better every week. I know we're talking about NXT, but McAfee has gotten better on SmackDown every week, you know? And yeah, I think you're 100% right. You knew from day one that McAfee cared about respecting wrestling when he was doing what he was doing. And he wanted to be a part of it. And I think that's part of the reason why you saw people kind of get won over by Bad Bunny too, because you knew that guy was a legitimate fan and he cared that he wanted to do well. You know what I mean? And I think once the fans know that that's real, like you said, and it's not bullshit, they're going to be invested in behind you no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exactly why I liked The Miz and not Daniel Puder back when they had that $1 Million Tough Enough episode. This is just where you got to listen to your fans, and you got to be more in tune with their opinions, because they're the ones who have to like stand through this all the time. So I think, but anyway.
You hear that, Vince? I think he told us once, if I recall. I think he told us once that he was going to start listening to the fans eventually, and then that lasted about 9 days, I think, or something like that. So
remember, they all came out to the ring.
All of them. It was the whole family. The whole family.
As soon as they said that,
like, all right,
the whole family's turned the heel on us again.
I know.
But let's get back to NXT.
Yeah, let's get back to the real show here. We then get a nice little fun match between Jake Atlas and Cameron Grimes.
Yeah, well done.
This was a good match. Jake Atlas is good. Jake Atlas is a good underrated because he underrated even. Like I feel like, and we'll obviously dive into the match, but I feel like every time he's been in a match, he's made the most of his opportunities. And he's someone probably to be on the lookout for as they start to incorporate new faces and try to make new stars. I think he'll be involved in that batch. Cameron Grimes comes out, cuts off his music immediately. He says, "I'm sick and tired of people making fun of me and saying that that Ted DiBiase is getting one over on me and he's making fun of me." And he goes, "This is who let's see the real Ted DiBiase." And he cuts to a video footage of the $1 Million Man back in his wrestling days, just getting the shit beat out of him by everybody. They're showing him getting thrown out of Royal Rumbles. They're showing him getting, stepping in dog poo from one of the old vignettes or interviews from the early 90s when they used to do that type of stuff. I thought it was funny. That ends and the crowd or the fake crowd chants are chanting for DiBiase, which obviously gets on Grimes' nerves. And then Atlas and him have a pretty good, quick little, I don't even know if it lasted 10 minutes, but it was a quick little match, but it was a pretty good match. I'll start off with you, Joe. Before we get talking about the ending, because obviously the ending was a little bit of a surprise. What did you think about Atlas's performance and how this match went?
I have no complaints about this match. It accomplished exactly what it needed to. Cameron Grimes always looks great in there, and he brings up anybody that's in the ring with him. I have absolutely nothing really negative to say about this. It was a well executed middle of the card match.
Yeah. Yeah. And it looked
Cameron
like
Grimes killing it like always.
Oh man, I'm telling you. And I love NXT. I love a lot of what NXT does, but there are two specific acts that stick out to me every week. Grimes is one of them. The second one we'll talk about in a little bit. But Grimes got in control towards the end, and it looked like he was going for his finishing move. And then all of a sudden, you hear the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase's music, and we see the man himself at the top of the stage. And he is obviously distracting Grimes, which then leads Jake Atlas to get a surprise roll-up victory, a big victory for Jake Atlas. Obviously a distraction led to it, but you know how these things work on WWE television, NXT television. Like a big win is a big win no matter how it happens, and they'll probably try to use that as for momentum for Atlas as his role on TV will probably grow a little bit from this. Grimes is furious. And he runs to the back chasing after DiBiase, and we see him run outside to the limo, and he's trying to get in the limo, and DiBiase rolls down the window, and he goes, "You're pretty good, kid, but you're still not the $1 Million Man." Oh, man. And he hits his laugh, and the limo rolls away, and Cameron Grimes just screams, "DiBiase!" And just, again, perfect. A perfect segment. I love the incorporation of the $1 Million Man. I do agree with what you said earlier, Joe, about how this might be hitting with younger fans, and we obviously heard what Ed said too. But I'll ask you guys, flat out, where do you think this goes? Do you think this is just a fun thing for a month and then DiBiase's gone, or does this lead to a manager role, or just where? I'll start with you, Parrish. Where, if you were given the pencil, where does this end for you?
I can see it at one or two ways. I think it would be apropos if Cameron Grimes is the first and only man to bankrupt Ted DiBiase. The second option I would have is that Ted DiBiase is the guy who at the end of this invests fully in Cameron Grimes. And you see this as a push up for Cameron Grimes, and then Ted DiBiase is in his back pocket per se, but no matter what you see if Cameron Grimes in the future, it's not necessarily an act that they both have to be a part of. I don't think you need Cameron Grimes to have Ted DiBiase as a manager or whatever you want to call it nowadays, advocate or anything like that. But if it's an insurance policy, or if it's just kind of like a broker, that could be it. Ted DiBiase could be Cameron Grimes' broker or something. But I think it'd be really well done where if Cameron Grimes is in a pickle down the road and he needs help, he can call Ted DiBiase, and they form this bond,
friendship a little bit, or
I'm using
bond,
the word
for
bond,
money bond. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
I see what you did
James
there.
Bond.
James Bond. All right, we'll slide up to. Oh yeah, go. Oh yeah.
So I'm just like,
finish your point.
but at the same time, like I would love to see them bring back this legend in Ted DiBiase, only for him to have his fade away, and the guy that is responsible is that new star coming in. Or in Cameron, and that's just it. Like as long as this benefits Cameron Grimes, then I'm okay with it. And if it does anything else, you miss the boat.
Yeah. All right, Joe. What say you? Where do you think this ends up?
I'm cool with whatever they do. I would say tread carefully if they get him back into the ring. I don't think that you should. You can do so much more in other places. I'm amazed that nobody has been asking, where's Virgil been in all this? Because, I mean, Virgil is usually always like in Ted's shadow, right? So, I mean, he follows him to signings and conventions and all that kind of stuff, right? So,
I think he still might be at that table waiting for somebody to come.
Yeah.
I'm wondering when Virgil might show up. But, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's been good stuff so far. And I just hope that they keep going with it. And I really had no predictions of where it might go. I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, boys.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we have a comment from our friend Dolby FM. He says, whatever story they come up with that ends with Ted giving us the laugh on a weekly basis, I'm on board. I agree with you there, my friend. 100%.
Is that Drew Dolby? I believe if that is, I might have done some shows with him in the past.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh,
world.
We have Bando who says, heck yes. So maybe that's the answer. Or I don't know if he was referring to the DiBiase comment, but maybe he knows the secret to your question, Parrish. We then see a nice vignette of Bronson Reed talking about how tonight was 14 years to the day of his first professional matchup. And I thought it was nice. They showed footage from it. He talked about his traveling across the world and where he's wrestled. He talked about a few of his bigger matches in his career in NXT so far. And I thought it was a nice little touch that he mentioned his wife. And he said, it's been 14 long years. And tonight I'm hoping to win that championship and look her in the eye and say, we did it. Again, quick to the point, but I thought it was well done. As we said earlier, this is stuff that WWE always knocks out of the park. But yeah, I thought that was a nice little vignette. Your friend Dolby FM did say, indeed, sup Parrish. So it looks like that is the man you thought it was, my friend.
Yeah.
We then get a sit down with Pete Dunne, who was with Arash Markazi, I believe his name is. I don't know if I butchered that. I apologize. Okay. I'm a huge fan of Pete Dunne. Huge. It seemed to me he was playing – this was more of like he was just being normal. Like he was being like a normal guy here. Just answering the question straight up. He still had the scowl, the natural like just I'm pissed off look that he just naturally has on his face. And like Spencer says right here, like that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like – okay, like he's not being overly aggressive or rude like he normally is. Yeah, I wanted your opinions on just the interview in general, but if you notice that too and you think maybe they might be doing a little bit of a shift of character when it comes to Mr. Dunne here. Joe, I'll start with you.
That's a pretty safe assumption. I got vibes of that too. And that's a move I say tread carefully because Pete Dunne is at his best when he is a bad guy. That's my personal humble opinion. Even going back to his early NXT days, like he even like getting right in the face of management, Regal. With Regal and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, like dude like he's got a big set of balls on him, and like just keep going with that. I think they're just kind of blurring the lines. I think he's working us. I think that's what's kind of going on here. He's been going to the Chris Jericho school of working the fans, and I think he's doing that a little bit. He's making some little subtle hints, but he's still the swarmy dick Pete Dunne that I know and love.
Yeah, and in it,
I think
In it, he talks about why he mentioned all the champions last week. He says that as far as he's concerned, he's done with Kushida, but he can take that belt from him anytime he wants. He mentions Walter, and he says that's obviously unfinished business, but that I made that title. That's my brand. He was using verbiage like that, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. He mentioned Johnny Gargano. He said, hey, we fought once before, and what happened? Pete Dunne won.
Yep.
He says, so the North American title, he can take it anytime. And then he mentions Karrion Kross, and he says he's not scared of Karrion Kross.
Yep.
And he's never had a bad match. He said his work speaks for himself. He was just talking truth as far as I was concerned. Parrish, what did you think of this interview with Pete Dunne, and where do you see him? I mean, obviously, towards the end, he said that the NXT title is where he wants to be. He said it's the only thing he's missing, he hasn't had yet. I think that's where he does belong, obviously up in that realm. Yeah, what'd you think of this little segment with him, and where do you see him going next?
I thought this was a segment to kind of create space away from the alliance he had with Oni and Birch and that whole for the brand
Pat
thing.
McAfee group.
And I really believe that was a needed thing, because no matter what, they were always kind of together, especially when McAfee was finished in NXT. And I didn't understand that relationship if Pat McAfee wasn't there. So I think now with the Bruiserweight, kind of like he was always kind of like a lone wolf too. Like when you kind of thought he always beat to his own, like the rhythm of his own drum. So I like the fact that he's in business for himself now. And I don't think he needs to be a complete dick. I think that's overdone as a heel. What he can be about is a guy who's confident that wherever he goes, he knows he can do it. So why do you have to be a dick about that? Why not just be honest and say that? It's what he does to get there that can define whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. So it dictates, it's what he does to get said opportunity, to get said title, or, you know. So I think it's a wait and see. I think this kind of gave us more of a, I want to see what they do next. And I think that's just creating a little bit of added care for him, like just getting more behind whatever they choose to do. So I don't want to say they don't know necessarily yet, but they might have tried an experiment to see if people want to cheer him, because people have had a tendency to want to cheer for him in the past. So they want to see if they feel like that heel run was a little forced on their end, or whether or not it's actually something that is organic. So
the only problem is you can't have a babyface wrestler out there trying to break your goddamn fingers. Like, it just doesn't work. You'd have to completely change his moveset and his wrestling style to be a good guy.
I mean, there would have to be some tweaks. I mean, I could see him maybe playing it up to the crowd before he does it to kind of get a reaction from him, but I don't know. Like, that's a vicious move. Yeah. Like, that's a vicious move.
Yeah.
But I mean, they sorry, before we go to Spencer, I'm gonna cut Spencer off, even though he's not here. But I was gonna say they did kind of later in the show kind of dictate Pete Dunne's next move. So I think that's also an indication of what we can expect for Pete Dunne next as well.
Yep. And Spencer does say he's been an excellent babyface before. His runs with his runs with Riddle and the Undisputed Era were fantastic. I would agree, especially with Riddle. The Broserweights were amazing.
The boss is very rarely wrong.
Yeah,
we call him that because
don't. Yeah,
Spencer's a big. You're a big Spruiksing fan, aren't you, Spencer?
Oh, is he? Yeah, the boss, right?
He's a big fan of this. I know that much.
We then get a one-on-one match between Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane. This was a real quick one, but there was a lot that happened in that. I did appreciate Vic Joseph. He didn't say the name, but he did make a reference to the history of these two, which I thought was a nice touch, because those of us that have watched NXT for a long time obviously know and remember Sanity and how good that could have been, and it just wasn't. And when it got to the main roster and things like that. So I thought that was a nice little touch. Relatively early on, Drake Maverick and the Imperium guys get involved, and it kind of turns into a little bit of chaos, which leads to Bartel throwing a chair into the ring, which Wolf goes to use. And when he turns around, Killian Dane runs and hits him with like that kind of flying crossbody slam for the victory. And then after, this is where the story kind of continues and changes a little bit here. We've kind of seen some dissension or, eye rolls from the Imperium guys when it comes to Wolf. They kind of help Wolf up after the loss. Bartel's kind of giving him some, and they get up there and they go to do the little stance there, and they attack and beat down Alexander Wolf. They hit the power bomb clothesline double team move, and they lay him out, and then they do the Imperium stance over his laid out body. So it looks like Alexander Wolf is no longer a part of Imperium. I don't know if we'll hear from Walter at any point saying that he was the one that told them to do that, or if this was just them two going rogue. I don't know, but this is a significant move in the Imperium storyline. I'll start with Joe. What'd you think about this little storyline here?
I like what they're doing with that. I will say, just at the beginning, Killian Dane and Drake Maverick, you gotta change that music up on that entrance. That entrance music is awful. But enough of the negative. I thought the match itself was great, and Imperium turning on Alexander Wolf, dude. That's like pro wrestling 101. Turn on the guy that messed up thing. That was perfect. The way they did that was spot on. They were standing there. I was just waiting for it to happen. I'm like, they did. It was fantastic. I enjoyed that.
Oh yeah. Spencer does say long game Killian Dane versus Walter. I'd be okay with that. And I agree with Spencer here. I didn't want to interrupt your point, Joe, but that entrance music is majestic. I love that entrance music. Out of here. We can agree to disagree. It's okay. Everybody can like what they want. Yeah. But I love that entrance. The breakdown with the whistling over. Oh my God. Spencer, what did you? I'm a Spencer. God Almighty. I'm sorry, Parrish. Parrish, what did you think of? I'm sorry. What did you think of the Imperium fallout?
One, I have nice hair and I can grow facial hair. And
Spencer's got some.
I have this. There are many differences between Spencer and myself, but needless to say, so we all remember how Adam Cole was kicked out of the Bullet Club, right? Yeah. When we had Marty Skrull introduced, but that
was epic.
Where I'm getting at is we had the Kenny Omega video that was played. I would have loved to see Walter have this video played where he instructed the kick out of Alexander Wolf.
That would have been cool.
I thought that would have set more of a template on the why than anything else, because I'm not going to lie, I don't really give a flying you-know-what that Alexander Wolf got kicked out of Imperium. I didn't think he really fit Imperium that well to begin with. I think there are plenty of other people that fit it well. I think Cesaro would fit it very well. I think there's other candidates that would fit
I think Killian Dane would fit very well.
Cesaro's a good guy. That's a heel stable there.
Yeah.
You don't make Cesaro heel. You make Cesaro
not anymore. Not anymore.
No, not now. I'm just saying he's a guy that I could like. He fits that role better than Wolf would. I'm just using him as an example, but I would have. I don't know. Like I think the whole Dane Wolf partnership was. I don't know. Like I saw that comment a few weeks back, and I just don't know if that's a good idea, just because it'll overshadow what Maverick and Dane would do. So I'd like to see how that would fit.
Yeah, Spencer says, take shots about the title, but how dare you about the hair?
Well, you know what? I can talk. I have better hair. So
oh no.
But we're talking about a Dane, by the way, not
it will be interesting to see if somebody eventually replaces Wolf, or they just go back to the three of them that it was for a while when this whole Imperium thing started. So definitely a storyline to keep an eye on, as Imperium has been touted as a major group for the NXT brand. So we'll have to see.
And it does feel like a 3-man group is better designed in NXT UK than a 4-man, whether it was British Strong Style, which is also another thing I would love to see actually be a thing once in a while. So yeah, like, it's interesting. It makes me care more about the next step of Imperium, but again, you touched on it earlier. I'd like to hear what Walter thinks of it, because I think Walter creates that narrative a lot better. And that's why I wish there was some Walter involvement instead of just the other two, because it does feel like they went a little rogue until we hear Walter.
Yeah. All right. We then get the tag team match that you guys talked about both in the intro to the show tonight. We have Legado del Fantasma versus Ciampa and Thatcher. I agree with you two. I thought this match was excellent. I thought it was the best match of the night. Yep. I will let you start, Parrish, because you were the first one to tout it earlier on the show. Yeah. Give me your thoughts of the match. What stuck out to you? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, anybody who knows me just knows when tag team wrestling is done right, I am just always going to be behind it. I think tag team wrestling is a forgotten art, and there really isn't I actually don't even think there is a good division. There are some up and coming, but there's nothing really great that stands out to me of who I get to see on a regular basis. Joe, I know you probably have a different answer on that, but you watch a lot more stuff that I don't. So, but with that being said, what stood out to me, Raul Mendoza, he stood out to me. This was his welcome to the party moment. Like, he had his performance of a career that I've seen from him. He was really impressive tonight. He showed a lot of heart. Just that whole segment where they actually showed EMTs checking on him and he's fighting through it. There you go. That is how people care about somebody. Whether it's a good guy or a bad guy, people now give a you-know-what about that guy. And now I believe in this faction that much more, because we know how good Santos Escobar is. But I always felt that the other two were always the 1B, 1C to the 1A. Yeah. Now I think they are rising up their game to the points where the better they are as a tag team, the better that group is moving forward. So I'm very curious to see how they go. I believe you strike while the iron is hot right now, and you do a feud between MSK and I always mess up. I'm going to just say Wild and Mendoza.
Legado del Fantasma.
Yeah, Legado del Fantasma. But
say Mendoza and Fantasma. It's easy.
Yeah, it's all whatever works.
But I think you do a feud with these guys, and I honestly think you put the titles on Fantasma right now. But you do like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 month storyline with MSK, and I think you can really escalate this title picture right now.
Yeah, Joe. I know you were a big fan of this match as well. Yeah, go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah, arguably as well the match of the evening. I'm always a big fan of Tommy Entertainment. That's why I've always coined him. During his super heel run, coming out to no music and all that stuff. So it was fantastic. Him and Thatcher are gold as a tag team. Mm-hmm. With Mendoza and Fantasma, I think that I'm excited to see what happens with those guys too. With that segment, with the EMTs and stuff, you got to be careful that, especially if you're bad guys, you don't want to go too far with that segment. Otherwise, you put sympathy on the bad characters, which is psychology-wise is a little backwards. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. But other than that, I mean, great match. I'd love to see more with these 4 guys because, like Parrish hit on, tag team wrestling, especially in North America, is a lost art. That's just a fact. It's still alive in like Mexico and Japan to a certain extent. We do full-on tournaments over in Japan, like World Tag League and stuff over there. It's fantastic. But in North America, tag team wrestling needs a big shot in the arm, and stuff like this is good.
Yeah, and
I did move in the right direction.
And I did like the incorporation, obviously, as things were breaking down towards the end, of getting the Grizzled Young Veterans in there too, because they're a tag team that are in that echelon with these two teams. I like that they got involved. They obviously attacked Ciampa, so you know that as Legado del Fantasma moves towards MSK, Ciampa and Thatcher are going to have great tag team action going on with the Grizzled Young Veterans. So you'll have multiple tag team wrestling feuds with 4 really good tag teams. So it's
they do it.
Yeah.
Two things I also want to touch up on, because I think this has been a theme lately with it happened at Backlash, it happened on Raw. The announcers actually say something for me. When you had the EMTs checking it out, they reference Escobar saying something to the effects of, when you're down, you don't do it for you do it for your brothers. And it really made it parallel and sent, like, they sensed up that attribute that Mendoza didn't do it for anybody other than his tag team partner and for the betterment of the team, which was their internal saying, which therefore made it sound like they are taking the guidance of Santos Escobar literally and very well. So I thought that was a really great thing. And touching on you with the involvement of Grizzled Young Vets, who I still think are untapped stars in the tag team division. I love the fact that NXT is using non-title feuds to the advantage to create depth in their divisions. It is just a beautiful sight, and this is why I think NXT, top to bottom, is the most complete show you see in professional wrestling.
It's definitely up there. I mean, it's definitely, you might not be wrong there. It's definitely towards the, 1 or 1A of that for sure. We then get what I thought was a pretty good promo. We get a Bobby Fish segment out in the back. And he's talking about, Oney Lorcan and Pete Dunne injured him, tore his tricep, put him on the shelf, and he had to watch Undisputed Era, his group, crumble from the sidelines while he was injured. I thought that was a nice touch, obviously mentioning that, because that's what you think about when you see Bobby Fish, and he was not around for that whole thing. So I'm glad they touch base on it. And then I also liked how he said, and Pete Dunne runs around here saying that he's the matchup everybody's afraid of. Well, that's the only matchup that I'm looking for. And he was like, I'm back, so that means there's a debt that needs to be paid. And Pete Dunne, you're next. You're in line. And they announced that next week, Bobby Fish will indeed return to the ring to fight Pete Dunne. Like I said at the top, I thought this was a really short, good return promo for Bobby Fish. Joe, what did you think about it?
Yeah, you nailed it, man. I definitely want to see that matchup. Bobby Fish, typically not a guy you would say that it was a great promo. It never really has been, but I mean, sometimes with those kind of guys, you just got to go with the less is more approach, and that's what they did here, and it worked. I'm excited to see that matchup, man.
Yeah, it should be good.
Because, I mean, usually when I think Bobby Fish, I usually think tag team stuff, but I'm curious to see how he'll do against Pete Dunne. I think that could potentially be a show stealer if done properly.
Yeah. Parrish, anything to add about this segment?
Yeah, I'm just going to break down a couple things. What I liked is when he was asked about helping out with Kyle O'Reilly, he did mention that it was less about Kyle O'Reilly and more about Pete Dunne. And he signified, and I really like this just from a storyline angle, that the Undisputed Era, which he in phrase said imploded, that everyone is moved on now, and there are things now that they're individually looking for. So it really, he answered the question, tied it, acknowledged it, but also tied in to his own objectives moving forward, now to the point where you don't ask any secondary questions of Undisputed Era. I think this has officially concluded Undisputed Era. We've heard all 4 people now mention it and moved on from it. Yeah. I think now it's officially over, because you're not talking about, oh, what does this guy think? What does this guy think? And things like that. And again, like you say, quick, to the point, effective. It makes me want to tune in. He built this very well. He sold this very well. And now I want to see who Bobby Fish is as himself.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing because this is an unknown that nobody is aware of. And this is why it's interesting to me, because the portrayal of Bobby Fish as an individual act now is something that I'm curious to see how it's going to work.
Yeah. We then get Candice and Indy finishing up their day at the spa. And the masseuse comes in and tells Candice that the credit card has gotten declined.
Try it again.
And try it again. Oh, I've swiped it 3 or 4 times. Then Indy and Candice look at each other and they go, oh, Austin, idiot, always ordering pizzas and things like that. And they're like, and the masseuse is like, no, there's an expense from 3 weeks ago from a florist, like a lot of money. Like, did you get flowers or get any chocolates or anything? And you can see Indy Candice is trying to be like, no, I don't know what that's about. And you can see Indy kind of putting the pieces together in her facial expressions, like, oh. And then Indy says, wait a minute, was that you that got Shotzi and Ember flowers and not Dexter? And Candice, you could tell, is embracing for Indy to turn on her or just get angry. And Indy is just so excited that he still loves me. Dexter still loves me. And she just runs off happy as a clam, as they say. Yeah. And Candice is just sitting there like, here we go again. Now I got to deal with this crap all over again. Again, I thought the way segments for a while now, for like, going on the last month or so, have been just pure comedy and pure fun. And I thought this was in line with all of them. I thought it was well done again, very fun, and it just continues the Dexter Loomis, Indy Hartwell thing, and yeah, I'm all on board.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the one takeaway I have is we're getting a lot more of Indy Hartwell as an entertainer, which I think when you add people like this, like we know who the Candice LeRae and the Johnny Garganos are. We know the athletic ability of an Austin Theory, but we don't know how entertaining he can be. Now we've seen a little bit of that, and he has just risen from how we look at him. Indy Hartwell, same thing right now. And it's very refreshing to see these people get an opportunity and do a good job with it. And because of this, you're creating so much more good for the branding, good for the show, to the point where now do we not want to see Dexter Loomis and Indy Hartwell as a couple? Like, is that not something you want to see moving forward? Yeah, and this could be the one wedding angle that I think might actually be curious about.
Lord help us if it goes to a wedding. Right. But no, but it's true.
Right? Yeah, but it's going to go there.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think now this has become something that like a lot of people that watch NXT probably do want to see, and they've built it well. So now what's the payoff? The payoff is them now eventually getting together and actually, we're seeing where that goes and what's the next step in that too.
Imagine it happens in front of people and they just go absolutely apeshit. Like that would be so much fun to watch live.
Yeah. We then get Aaliyah versus Saray. This was a glorified squash match for Saray, showcasing her. Again, all her matches have been relatively short. The longest one was her debut against Stark, but they've all been relatively short. So I'm still gauging on what I think, kind of trying to figure out what her character is going to be and like what it's going to be. But I thought overall, like just another quick, dominant victory for her. And another, this is what Aaliyah does, right? Whenever Aaliyah's in matches, she's putting somebody else over. That's kind of her role there in NXT. It seems she's been there for a while. I thought this was, not much more to talk about besides that. And it looks like Joe, you might have something to say about it.
To kind of further on with a recent video that our friend Josh Robinson did over on Love Wrestling, of the women not getting a fair shake.
Yep.
Another great example on this show. They get like 3-4 minutes. This match is very, very short. And I'm somebody who's a fan of Japanese women wrestlers. Mm-hmm. This match was like ice cold for me. Like there's like no investment. It's like it's a little squash-ish match that happened, and it's like it further nothing for either individuals. Aaliyah is just the fall person at this point.
Yep.
They don't do anything with her, and this Saraya, like I'm concerned that it's another. I honestly, I've forgotten her name now. She won the Mignon Classic. She's going to be another one of these Japanese wrestlers. They're not going to know.
Kairi Sane was it?
Kairi Sane, exactly. Yeah. She reminds me exactly of her. It's almost the same character.
Yeah,
Right?
It's
a shame. The women just not getting a fair shake on the show, man. They got some promos and vignette time, but match wise, bupkis.
Yeah, I thought this match was. I don't need to be seeing Aaliyah have any 20-minute classics yet or anything like that, but you can do more than 3 minutes. You can. She can get some offense in, and we can see Saray come back from a beatdown of some sort and overcome to get a victory, something like that. More to the character than just another 3 to 4 minute match where she hits, that big drop kick and like a suplex and it's all of a sudden over. And it's like, okay, well, what do we really have here with this person? Especially someone like, I don't know her from where she was before NXT. I only know what I've seen on NXT. Yeah. And what I've seen is like, all right, yeah, she's winning quick matches all the time, but like, I don't know who this person is. Like, I don't know yet, so I mean, and she's still relatively new. There's more to dive into, but I thought it could have been handled a little bit better. Parrish, you have anything to add about this before we move on?
Yeah, I'm going to just say this. When Nakamura had his debut match, he had a classic with Sami Zayn. And because of that, he made a bigger impression with not only the audience, the fan base, but the viewership as well. He connected a lot more. I don't understand the reason why you always have to bring in these great workers and just have squash matches to build a new character. Why not have somebody that tests them to the limit and see if you actually have a true superstar, not just a star, a superstar in the making there. I think that is something that they seldomly never do, and they should think of doing more often with specific stars, especially if you're going to go the Japanese route, because a lot of the translation gets lost is the promo skills. But what everyone is tuning in for is the pro wrestling skills. Yeah. If they can do the pro wrestling, boom, they're already in. And you kind of give more of a leeway if they have a translational issue in a promo, because you're like, okay, well, they're Japanese. It's the WWE style. I'll give them a little bit of leeway, but I know they're really good. And when they're in the ring, I'm going to definitely watch it. But if they have these squash matches, and especially against somebody like Aaliyah, no disrespect to her, but she is never going to be in the class of, I can't wait for her to win the women's championship anytime soon. Therefore, I'm going to start caring a little bit less about why she's wrestling Saray, because you know what the end result's going to be. Yeah. Give me a match against Saray and
Dakota Kai.
Dakota Kai would be a great example, but even Toni Storm, like right away, or give me one against Candice LeRae, or a very established star, or maybe put her in a non-title match against Raquel Gonzalez. Do something right away, and like you don't have to have her winning the match, but a great showing goes a long way.
Oh yeah, you can still get over by losing. Yeah, that's definitely. Cesaro got over on Sunday night to Roman Reigns. Like, he was over to a lot of us already, but he got over in a loss on Sunday night. Like, you can do it.
And
if you're bringing in, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
The other thing to tie into what Parrish is hinting at there, because I mean, a Japanese wrestler, like over there, they very much so, like 99% of the matches, the storytelling is typically done inside the ring, inside the actual match itself. You can't bring one of them over and expect to do it in a North American fashion, with like squash matches against jobbers and that approach. It doesn't work, because they're not used to working that way. And that's why there's a disconnect, and why it feels weird, because they're not used to it. Right.
Yeah. If you have an established star who's a babyface champion, and the star coming in as a babyface, there is no shame for them going into a match with that star right away. And it doesn't have to be for the championship, and you still make your champion look strong in a win. You just also put more emphasis on getting that new person, that incoming star, a really good shine, so it looks like it could take this person to the limit in their first attempt. Just imagine what they can do against other talents that aren't champion. And it's just a perception thing. And I think WWE misses the boat on this And the last person before Nakamura, I think they did that, is when Finn Balor went up to the quote-unquote main roster and they put the Universal title on him right away. Look how well they perceive Finn Balor right away after that.
Yeah. And our buddy, the Canadian Goose, says, Aaliyah was one of the focuses of the NXT reality show WWE did a while back. So was Baron Corbin before he moved to the main roster. But by now, you would think Homegirl would get a push or at least an opportunity to get pushed. Yeah. And then he asked the question, why do you think she hasn't obtained more focus? Probably because, I mean, at the Performance Center, they're there every day, right? So I would assume that, you know, whether it's Triple H or whoever, they just don't believe in her that way. They maybe just from her being there that long and the work they've seen on a day-to-day basis.
When I see her on the television screen, I don't see star. You just don't. I mean, there are certain individuals. I look at like some of the up-and-comers. I look at Austin Theory. That's a potential star. I look at Bronson Reed. That's a star. I look at Cameron Grimes. That's a star. I look at Aaliyah, and sorry, homegirl.
Yeah, I know it's true, and it's like, yeah, and you've
been there for a long time.
At least to his first statement about the push or something like that.
Yeah.
How many people have managers in NXT?
Yep.
Like her. Like her and Jesse, you know, like Robert Stone's one of the 1 or 2 managers in NXT. So you would think if somebody has a manager that they would at least be more prominent than where they are, since managers are so few and far between now these days. But she's been there for a while, and she just seems to be the role that, hey, we want somebody to look good. People know who you are because you've been here. Go make them look good. And that's just kind of, and look at, people have made careers off that. It's not a bad role to have. It's better than not being on the show. You know,
she could have been part of this last group of firing.
Exactly. You know, it is what it is. It's just, you know, it's one of those things. So
I'm going to add too, if you think she deserves a push, list me right now her top 5 matches and top 5 best promos. If you can't do that and you have a hard time finding that out over the time that she's been there,
bingo.
There's your answer already. And this is just one of those things. It's you got to make the opportunities with the time that you have. Yep. And then the office will say, guess what? You can get a couple extra minutes, and then you got to make that count. Everything's an opportunity. It's not that difficult to do a good job if you're very good. You just have to understand how to make you just have to learn how to hit a home run in a minute or in an hour. And it's look at
it. Like Joe just said, some people, it is what it is, you know. I'm not doing it, they're doing it, I'm sitting here. So you know, it is, you know, but it's just some people are stars and some people are the role that she just seems to be in right now. It's not a bad thing, you know. So then we get, speaking, I know Parrish, you said very good in your last statement there. Speaking of very good, Hit Row. They are at the top. Them and Cameron Grimes are the 2 things that I am most invested in personally in NXT. I have loved everything that they have done with Swerve and now this group since this is kind of formed. They had a tag match tonight. It was Ashanti Adonis and Top Dollar going against a couple veterans in Tony Nese and Daivari from 205 Live. Quick, mostly dominating. I won't say it was basically another squash to an extent, but they did let Nese and Daivari get some offense since they have been around and they are known, established. Nese, former cruiserweight champion, like they're established guys, right? So they got a little bit of offense in each, but this was really a showcase for Adonis and specifically Top Dollar. He had the double team move where he had Nese and the fireman over him, and he caught Daivari and did a double slam, and basically like Wade Barrett on commentary said it was like a super wasteland kind of move that ended up going on Nese. I thought that was cool as shit. I thought that was awesome. I liked his finishing move as well. It was like a fireman neck breaker type drop there that looked really cool too. Short, sweet, effective. They all cut a promo after. They all cut, you know, they all hit their lines, Top Dollar, B, and Adonis, and then Swerve rounded it out by saying, I don't give a damn who's winning that North American title match later, but I'm definitely going to be paying attention to who does because I'm interested in that title. And I think he should be moving that way. That's just a step. I would love him to win it. Obviously, we'll get into it. We just got a new champion tonight. I would like to see him have that for a bit and get a good reign in. But I want Swerve near the top of that roster. That's where he belongs. He has separated himself to me recently. Like you just said, he was given an opportunity and he has knocked it out of the park. What'd you guys think of this tag match? Obviously, it was sweet, but just Hit Row in general. I'll start with you, Parrish. How you feeling this? Are you as into it as I am?
Yeah, like when Hit Row's music came out,
great, by the way,
and the segment ended, they owned that entire time. That is why you care about that act. That's the problem with Aaliyah and why she hasn't had that same success. She doesn't own the time she's given. With this being said, the one thing that I would like Hit Row to do a little bit better at is when they have a segment where they get to talk and they all talk, they're not talking over each other as much as they did. I found sometimes they're still trying to find who they are within the group. They understand the group more so they understand their involvement in it. I think that's something that I'm very curious to see how that evolves, because I do believe it will evolve. I think this was a good coming out party for Top Dollar. I do like the fact that they have chosen to do a single male, a female valet, and a tag. I like how that's how they're doing this. I do see a potential fourth, and I'm kind of curious on if that's going to be a thing, who it could be. I do have a thing. We may be talking about him later. But with that being said, I like how Swerve is going towards the next level. He's like North American title. That's my focus. Like you said, it should be. I also don't think right now we need to push this tag team. I think this is an act. A little bit more of these squash matches could be beneficial for them. Yeah. There's still a little bit of rust and greediness to this tag team that before you start putting it in a feud, you got to get this wiped out.
Yeah, I think Swerve is the focus, right? So I think Swerve should be the focus. These should just be his supporters, his group. And then when they are going to wrestle, they should have matches exactly like they had tonight, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't need – we just talked about 4 great tag teams earlier who are going to be revolving around the titles most likely for a bit. Yeah. Let them do their thing. You get your work in. AJ Francis, Top Dollar, he literally just started wrestling. You know what I mean? So, he looks great tonight. First impression, very good. Very good.
Does this new group kind of have a similar kind of vibe to how Big Cass, Carmella, and Enzo kind of came out? They're not necessarily in that entertainment aspect, really, but the role to the show. And I feel like this is very interesting. And I kind of had that vibe of okay, I see where they could actually end up going. I'm not saying vibe in the sense of how they entertain. I'm saying vibe of their placement and their act and how it goes to the show. And I think it's going to be very interesting because as we saw those earlier in NXT go, they became more centerpieces. Just like I think Hit Row has a lot of ability to evolve and become bigger and bigger. And I like that.
I think Hit Row has a chance to be the main faction in NXT. I think they're going to be top of the, not right away, obviously, but they're going to be top of the card. And I think once people get there, I know they're playing heels right now. I think people are going to dig them, and I think they're going to get cheered, and they're going to.
All 4 acts are still relatively fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole idea of it is fresh, right? It's something we haven't. It's different. That's why I think that's why we're all digging it, because it's just so different and cool. It's just cool.
There's really no star of the group yet. There's a leader, but there's no true star yet. And I think that's where it's going to get really fun watching them grow. Just like the Big Cass and Enzo kind of faction was. I was very curious of watching them grow. And that's kind of where I'm putting this kind of comparison.
Yeah. I agree with some of your points. I do agree with Spencer here though is I do think Swerve is the star. Like I think he's 100% that, and I would agree that I think he's not a mainstream star yet because NXT, is NXT to an extent, but I think very soon, Swerve
he's
is
in the
gonna
making. I just don't think
that.
he's a bona fide star right now. He's definitely groomed to get there. He's definitely in that progression state, in my opinion. But I don't think he's a bona fide star right now.
All right. So we then get.
I agree.
And before, and I know you spoke on it a little bit, Joe, but just your impressions of Hit Row to this point before we move on towards the end of the show here.
Fantastic. I mean, they're multifaceted and multidimensional too. Like what Parrish had mentioned, Enzo and Cass and what's her face. They were very like one dimensional. These guys are like multifaceted, and there's like different characters going on. I would agree with the Spencer. I think Swerve is clearly the star. I mean, I've been a fan of him when he was Shane Strickland doing stuff in MLW and Lucha Underground, stuff like that. Dude's fantastic. I'll go as far as saying I think he's another like CM Punk in the making. This guy, I think he's that.
I think he has a chance to. He can be. He can be. I didn't watch a ton of his stuff, but I did see some of his matches as Shane Strickland.
What he's saying essentially now, I'm a big enough star. I don't really need to even step foot in the ring and do a match. I'm that big of a freaking star.
Yeah,
that's quite a statement to make.
Yeah, I am a
big fan. I'm a big fan of these guys. I mean, and the only thing that would make it cooler is bring in Keith Lee and bring in Shane Taylor.
Oh yeah, if you just make it a bigger group, but Shane Taylor would be.
You could take
awesome.
over the company then.
Yeah. All right. So then we get an interview with Mr. William Regal in the back, and he goes over how Legado del Fantasma is now the number one contenders for the tag team champions with MSK, and they will challenge them in 2 weeks on NXT for the tag titles. That will be fantastic.
Hell yeah.
He then talks about how he kind of does a check-in in all the divisions, right? He said he's waiting to see who's going to step up in the cruiserweight division to challenge Kushida. He said he's bringing in more talent into the women's division to see who kind of steps up to challenge for that title. And then he announces that next week we will also see Dakota Kai and Raquel team up to go against Ember and Shotzi. And I'm assuming the winner of that match would then probably be the number one contenders for the NXT women's tag titles. But just kind of a roundup of the divisions and where those title pictures look like, which I thought, it's always good to kind of reset and talk about who's fighting who, stuff like that. And then we dive into the main event of the evening. Johnny Gargano defending the North American Championship inside a steel cage against Bronson Reed. I thought another good match between these guys. I thought the second half of it was awesome. A lot of big spots. I know, Joe, you had a little bit of some critiques when it came to certain things, which I'll let you dive in here for a second. But Bronson Reed does get his big moment, 14 years to the day of his first professional match, and he ends up winning the North American championship, which I was very happy for. I had him. I thought he was going to win. I'm glad he did. But Joe, I will let you start this last segment here. Just your opinions on Bronson Reed as now the North American champion, this match in general, and some of those critiques that you had that we talked about before the show started.
First of all, don't get me wrong. I mean, this match is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love, on the 14th anniversary of Bronson Reed being in wrestling, putting the title on him. And that was fantastic. The match itself was awesome. Just my only critiques, again, this is coming from somebody who's just watched so much freaking professional wrestling over the years that this kind of stuff does stand out to me. I know the casual fan, this probably isn't even on their radar. When you have a guy like Johnny, who's maybe like 160, 175,
$170 maybe, yeah.
And Bronson Reed's pushing 300 plus more, to have somebody like that do like a sunset flip, kind of like power bomb to somebody that's like 3 times your size, it's a little hard to suspend my disbelief in a scenario like that. You need to, with something like that, you need to do it in the right spot so it doesn't look, especially if you're then going to put the title on them. I mean, looking back on it, you think it comes into question. It's like, okay, so like, how is this guy able to do this? Like, you start getting to, it gets a little cartoonish, right? So that kind of stuff you need to kind of tread carefully with that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I thought the match was fantastic. Just there were a couple spots there where I was just like, okay.
We have Spencer in the chat says Brock Lesnar lost to Rey Mysterio. Suspending disbelief is easy,
right?
Yeah.
Wins and losses. I mean,
Well,
one thing, but
I could say something giantly controversial, but I mean, just because I'm gonna just say this, just because something happened doesn't mean we have to believe it from a wrestling standpoint, or if like enjoying it. That's kind of like that opinionated kind of oppression. But I agree, there's just a better way to execute it in this scenario.
Make it at least look like he was slipping at first.
But
so
like
some forward momentum.
It does take away the thing is right now Brock Lesnar's not going to let a Rey Mysterio overpower him in any faucet. And that's kind of like I think where you're getting at, Mighty Joe, and it's not the sense that okay, these guys can't do it. It's more of like, is it really believable in that pro wrestling fight way? And there's a difference between a pro wrestling fight and an MMA fight. Joe and I, you've had, Mighty Joe, you and I have had this conversation multiple times. Yeah. But, yeah, like outside of that, we also saw Bronson Reed absolutely fly at times. This guy is super agile, and I think it just – people forget just how mobile and how athletic this guy is and how versatile he's going to be as a champion, facing off with different people of different styles. And that's where it's going to get really fun to watch him perform. Yeah. Because when you're a challenger and you're going towards a title, you're facing one guy and one guy only. When you're a champion and there's no clear-cut number one contender, you have to be the most versatile guy on the card. Bronson Reed is going to show everyone just how versatile he is now that he's North American champion.
Yeah. I thought a couple spots that stood out to me was the springboard Poison Rana by Gargano off the rope was gnarly looking. Yeah.
That's another one too. It's like even to put yourself like let's say you're a new fan watching that for the first time. I mean, that's like comic book. I mean, there's just no, and like in actual reality for a person of that size to do that to somebody of that size, it is physically impossible, right? That's what I'm talking when it means suspending disbelief, and where you need to like, and this is minute stuff. I understand that, but you need to at least have like the guy like sort of like momentum going in that direction or something to make it a little bit more believable. Because like a Poison Rana from like a $175 guy onto a 300-pounder, it looks really, really bizarre to me.
Yeah,
I am going to point this out. An Irish whip is the most.
So it was a punch to the face.
Yeah, but the most suspending your belief thing you can do in pro wrestling.
So it was like a punch to the face. Al Snow himself. That's the fakest thing that happens in professional wrestling is a punch.
The punch, yeah. I did love the one final beat when he like springboarded off the top rope. I thought that looked awesome. And then I liked the end too. Obviously Theory got involved a lot on the outside. I thought some of that was good though. I liked when they did the move where Gargano was doing the running drop kick and Theory ran from the outside and like shoulder block. They kind of double teamed Reed there. I thought that was creative. But I love the ending where Reed is looking to escape climbing up the cage and he looks down and he sees Johnny crawling towards the door and he kind of just pivots. Hits one splash. I loved that he ran over and slammed the door shut and then went to the top rope and hit the tsunami for the victory. That shows that he's not a moron. He's smart. He knew.
Right. It was good.
He knew. And like, look at, and again, in general, there are a lot of times where NXT, WWE, whatever you want to call it, they make their good guys look like
dummies.
Dumb. And this was a moment where the good guy was like, no, I'm making sure I win this friggin' match. And he was smart. He shut the door. No, I'm not. This is ending right now. Well and he hit the tsunami. 1, 2, 3. We have a new champion. It's always good when you make the good guys look like they're smart because they should be smart. Good guys should not be doing dumb shit. That's what the heels do is dumb shit.
Exactly.
And if they do dumb shit, it should cost them. That's the big thing. If they do something stupid, it should come back at them in some way, and it's like a lesson learned. It's like Jeff Hardy staying in the cage match and jumping off it when he could have walked down and won the match, kind of a thing. But with that being said, yeah, I loved it. Bronson Reed just did so well. This was a great performance that he had, and like he fits the bill as champion when this match is said and done. And Johnny Gargano deserves so much praise for not only the work he did as champion, but he made Bronson Reed bigger because of this feud and these times. So props to Johnny Gargano for that. And I want to make sure that doesn't go unnoticed as well.
Oh, yeah. And we have a few more minutes before we will bounce off here for the evening. I know, Parrish, you might have said it towards the beginning, but I'm assuming we might see one more match between these guys, with Gargano getting a rematch maybe before Bronson officially moves on to whatever's next for him. But I would assume that this is going to get Gargano away from that title for a little bit. He's the 2-time North American champion. He's either going somewhere else. I know you had mentioned you think maybe him and Austin Theory will form a tag team potentially. Is that where you see Gargano going? If I were to ask you guys what's next for Johnny Gargano?
I think it's just the chemistry between him and Austin Theory right now, and the way they feed off each other is so pure and organic right now that I want to see more of that. Plus, I don't think you need to give Johnny Gargano an instant rematch right away. I think you can wait a little bit. It'd be a little bit more refreshing to that title. Plus, Johnny Gargano, since he's been there for so long, he's been multiple North American champion. He's been a heavyweight champion, and he's done everything you can. So the only thing you do is you kind of try to change up what you can do. He's been tag champion, but he was with one of his best friends. Now maybe you can go with an Austin Theory way. I just think it's time now. If you're not going to do anything with Johnny Gargano in terms of the Raw and SmackDown, and you want to keep an NXT, you can't just dissolve him all the time in the title pictures. You got to move him away, and you got to create that the niche for those secondary feuds and things like that, and really create the depth of the division. And then when he does get back in the title thing, it's fresh. It's something you want to see, and you're pumped for it because you know it fits the bill. So yeah, I mean, I just like to see something different out of the way. Plus, can you really do the way with single act right now? Plus, how cool would it be if Johnny Gargano, Austin Theory were tag champions, Indy and Candice are tag champions? We've never had a faction where there's 2 tag champions. That'd be a cool thing.
Yeah, for sure. Joe, what about you? Where do you think Gargano potentially could go?
If they're going to do a tag team, like, go all in, like, dress the same, come up with a new theme, come up with a team name, do it that way. My only fear with 2 singles becoming a tag team is the typical WWE trope. We have a little bit of a run, and then one guy has to turn on the other one, right? It's the same old song and dance over and over again. Do something a little bit different here. Either have a full-on run as a legitimate tag team, or if you do eventually have them splitting off, it doesn't always have to be like one guy turning heel on the other guy. Like, it doesn't always have to be that way. Mix it up a little bit to create a little bit of a surprise there. Or like I said, do a full-on run, call them the whatevers.
Yeah, why not? The way, the whatevers, whatever. Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah.
I just think this is a time where Johnny Gargano should be helping an Austin Theory progress to the next level of a star on the show. He's relatively young. I think he's still
like 23 or 22 or something. He's younger.
So I think you gotta, and like, he's leap years ahead of where most him and Tyler Bate are just leap years in terms of the age and their talents. But I think putting it together is something that Austin Theory is now finding out more about, working more with Johnny Gargano, which is tag, or even a potential like one-on-one. I think that's the right thing for Johnny Gargano to do.
How about Austin Theory and Johnny Gargano versus Ciampa and Thatcher?
I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with that. Right. And then you already have the history built in with Ciampa and Gargano.
You betcha.
Love it. You know what?
I was thinking that, and I was
Joe. That
really
might be
happy.
the night, Joe.
Book that shit.
Book that shit. And on that note, I think we're gonna get out of here. Joe, anything to plug the rest of the week? Anything you've already released this week you would like to plug? The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, we had Turnbuckle Talk yesterday. I put out the audio version today, which also included a tribute to New Jack. So make sure and check that out. Had a lot of fun on that episode. Coming up it's still today, so tomorrow. The Turnbuckle Rewind. Turnbuckle Rewind. Of course, we're going to be looking at the classic of Macho Man versus Steamboat from WrestleMania 3.
Yes.
Awesome stuff there. Looking forward to that, and looking for you guys checking it out.
Yeah. Parrish, anything on the books for you to plug, or are you just going to be hopping on whenever you can, or you got anything planned this week?
Oh yeah, I'm like the Love Wrestling's version of a Kardashian. I'm gonna just get on whatever I humanly can. I've made that before, but you know what? It's funny either way. People pop. I'm also going to just hold on for 1 second. I'm finding it out. There it is. It's still. I learned how to do this stuff last night.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I hosted my first show yesterday.
We got it.
I got a subscription the first time I hosted. So
Hey-o.
I was happy about that.
Yeah.
1 for 1. But with that being said, no, I mean, yeah, I'm going to pop on as much as I can here. So yeah, maybe I'll even do a run-in from here and then. Maybe I'll do that Josh Robinson run-in.
Yeah,
who knows?
right.
But I mean, this is a very important thing. It's still May. We still have a few weeks left in May. Go to donate.tiltify.com/app putting -u-over/St. Jude. Help those children in need that St. Jude is trying to do as well. The guys at Putting You Over are doing such a fantastic job of creating awareness to help out for this month of May. So do us a favor and help other people, just like everyone is helping us, and we're helping you with all this wrestling content.
Yeah. For me, I am right there at Joseph_Poulin Jr. on the Twitter. I will be back here tomorrow. I don't know who's joining me yet, but I will be back here tomorrow for another War Report Live for AEW Dynamite. And then you'll probably see me again at some point between now and the end of the week. I try to, like Parrish, I try to pop on whenever I can. Spencer, thank you for this comment of my emote. And to our friend Bando, he said, good stuff, guys. Have a great night. Thank you for showing up and watching the show. You have a great night too. And everyone else that showed up and was active in the chat.
Thank you. My emote.
As always, please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe to us on Twitch. We're looking to reach our goals and break some records week over week, and we only can do that with your guys' support. So thank you for joining us tonight. Parrish, thank you. Mighty Joe, thank you for joining me once again. This is the War Report Live, and we will see you again tomorrow night. Bye, people.